Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare and conquer your upcoming hike, trek or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. All right, hey podcast. So today we are talking about the easiest way to prevent pain while hiking. Now, this podcast episode today is specifically directed at those who may be preparing for a significant adventure in their near future. So if you've got a big hike, a big trek, or a big mountain adventure coming up, and you might be suffering something like plantar fasciitis, shin splints, knee pain, hip pain, lower back pain, or really any lower body overuse injury or niggle, I'm going to be giving you a really simple strategy which can pay massive dividends in the reduction of your pain, the increase in the comfort in your hiking, and just the more chance of giving you a greater chance of success in your overall adventure. Now, this story is coming from a client of mine, an online client of mine, Andrew, who back last year, I was training him and his son in preparation for a climb of Mira Peak over in Nepal. Now, after training together for a couple of months, their trip got postponed, so we stopped training together, and with the idea of coming back to getting back in touch in the new year to discuss once they're a few months out from their adventure. And so Andrew reached out to me the other day and we were chatting about his trip and saying, you know, they've been working really hard on their preparation. It's coming around in a few months. However, his son has started to get some, a bit of niggly knee pain. Nothing outrageous, but stuff that's sort of a little bit concerning leading into 3 months out. And initially, when we first started working together, we'd sort of gone through our assessment process. I had a reasonable idea how their body moved and a sort of a reasonable idea of where they were at in their preparation. So I was like, look, just let me know what you guys have been doing in your training over the last couple of months since we last spoke. I can have a look at that and then we can sort of discuss some areas that may potentially help with the niggly knees and, of course, get him ready for Mira Peak. So Andrew came back to me and he basically passed on their training schedule, which they've been doing, which they've been working really hard with it, which basically involved they were doing 2 stair sessions a week, 3 different types of hill intervals a week around different hills in their local area, and a long hike each week as well. And they said they've been working really hard, they've been pushing it, they've been feeling super strong, super fit. However, the knees were starting to get a little bit worrisome. And immediately looking at that, there was one thing that was super clear to me, and it was a really quick fix to help in this situation. And the fact was they were just simply doing too much. Now, there was 6 days a week in which they were doing relatively intense training while they were on their feet, with a lot of going up and down. And at first glance, if you think you're preparing for a big peak like that, like Mira Peak in Nepal, is no easy feat, you need to be doing some serious preparation, and you're going to be hiking, trekking, climbing for quite many days in a row. You need to be preparing yourself for that. In reality, most people's bodies can't really handle something like that. Professional athletes probably can if they're getting support from physios and massage and they're doing the mobility stuff. But for the average Joe, that was just simply a little bit too much. So for me, we sort of came up with a few solutions in ways to not so much decrease how much training they were doing, but to reduce the impact that was going through their feet and their knees to sort of relieve a little bit of that pain. And it's only early days yet. And so only had this conversation a few days ago when we recorded this podcast, but I'm 95% certain by the time this podcast airs, there's going to be big changes. And then in a couple of weeks from that, there's also more than likely going to be back happy days with pain free. And it's a very simple fix. And the reason why I want to talk about this is not just for Andrew, but it's just such a common thing that I hear from people who are preparing for a trek or a hike. And for one reason or another, a lot of people reach out to me in the situation when they're preparing for a hike, they've been training, and all of a sudden their body starts to break down, whether it's foot pain, shin pain, knee pain, hip pain, lower back pain, whatever. And that's when they reach out to me and they're like, Rowan, I need help, because that seems to be when people need help, which is fair enough. And then I've had, quite a bit of experience helping people with that. And I would hazard a guess that really the reason behind this is just the majority of traditional trek preparation programs and hiking preparation programs, they're sort of centered around just doing as much work on your feet as you can. So trying to be hiking once, twice, 3 times a week, doing walks with a loaded pack, doing hill intervals, doing stair intervals, going for runs. And while yes, this stuff can be good and it can definitely get you fit and it can work for quite a few people, there's a huge amount of people who just simply can't handle that amount of work on their feet. And you don't have to, in all honesty. For myself, with my clients, I never get them going doing that much because I know it is so unnecessary and has such an unnecessarily high risk of injury for the everyday hiker and adventurer. It's just not practical. So if you are in this situation and, you're preparing for a hike or a trek and you're thinking, well, if I want to get fit, I need to be doing all these things. I need to be working hard. I just need to tell you right now, you need to be a little bit smarter about this. You need to have a little bit extra thought and a little bit extra process behind this, and you can still get just as fit, if not more, without doing a huge amount on your feet. So in my personal opinion, no one in the amateur trekking and hiking world really needs to be doing more than 3 sessions a week on their feet. So that involves things like hiking, loaded pack walking, treadmill incline walking, hill sessions, stair sessions, things like that. If you're doing a casual walk around your neighborhood, that's a little bit different. There's a little bit, not so much pressure. But out of those actual training sessions, you probably don't need to be doing more than 3 sessions a week. And for my own clients, I'm really rarely getting them doing more than 2 sessions a week of this. So I'd usually recommend them doing some type of longer walk or hike once a week, and then one a little bit shorter of some type of interval stuff, whether it's on the treadmill or on a hill or stairs or just walking around the neighborhood at different speeds. But that's my personal opinion around that. But around that type of training on their feet, whether they're doing 2 or 3 sessions, I'll build out the rest of their week with a few different things. So it generally tends to be structured strength training, which, if you've been listening to this podcast, I love, and lower impact conditioning. So things like the bike, whether it's outdoor or indoor, working on a cross trainer in a gym, swimming or walking in a pool, or a range of other sort of cardio exercises in which you're not really putting a huge amount of strain through the feet or the knees or anything like that. However, you can still develop some really good benefits around your aerobic fitness and aerobic capacity. And you can also develop relatively specific muscles. Like it's not exactly the same as walking, but you can still get a decent workout on them. And in this way, you can still improve your trail fitness. You can still improve your resilience to injury, but while greatly minimizing your risk of overuse injuries in the feet, in the shins, in the knees, in the hips, in the lower back. And it really can be as simple as that. So today, your mission, if you are preparing for a significant adventure or you just do love training and you're doing lots and lots of training and you're experiencing a bit of discomfort in those areas I've mentioned, I want you to have a genuine think about what you are doing in your regular week. And then really ask yourself the question, do you potentially think you might be doing too much? And if so, is there something in your week which you could swap out for a bit of a lower impact training? Now, this doesn't mean lower intensity training, though it can, but literally just lower impact training. Now, while this solution might not be relevant to everyone, like if you're only doing a session or 2 a week and you need to be doing more sessions, obviously telling you to hold back might not be 100% relevant for you. And if you have something a bit more serious going on, whether you've had like a knee reco or have some more elevated levels of injury or pain, again, this advice might not 100% sort you out. It'll still be practical and still be relevant, but you might obviously need to be doing a bit more around that. But saying that, I know there are so many hikers out there which this will bring some pretty magic results and really immediately be able to relieve some of that discomfort and pain. And the only drawback with this is once that pain disappears, people are tempted to go back to their old ways and start smashing their work on their feet and go back up to those 4 or 5 sessions, and the pain comes back and then they relieve it and it comes back and relieve it, and it's just a never ending cycle. So if you do go down this path and it does help, then that's what you want to do. You want to continue on that path, get a bit more creative with your lower impact exercise, and it can make a massive difference. One last thing I'll say on this subject, if you do take the time, if you've written down your training week and you're looking at it and you're like, you know what, I don't know if I'm really doing too much or am I doing enough. I'm not 100% sure. I'm more than happy to give you a bit of direction around this and give you a little bit of insight and advice. All you have to do is simply go on to Facebook, find the hiking and trekking Facebook group in which I run, in which we talk about physical preparation for hiking, attitude, nutrition, a whole bunch of different things. You can come on that group, you can share your training program, you can ask me any questions you want, and I'm more than happy to give you some really decent direction around that and hopefully point you in the right direction to sort of get on top of your training, make sure it's working for you and you're not in either the camp of doing not enough or doing way too much. So the offer's there. Just simply join the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group and you can reach out to me with any questions you might have. So that's probably enough from me today, guys. I do hope, as always, you've enjoyed this episode. If you do have any questions about it, pop on the group, ask me any questions. But if not, have a lovely day and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye.